Hello and welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on Friday, September 11th. I'm your host for today's program, Kimberly Acosta. Many of the stories you hear here today can be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com, or you can check out IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. A report released by President Obama's Science Advisory Council assessing preparations for 2009 H1N1 influenza A outlined what steps it was recommending that should be implemented nationally to curtail a serious H1N1 pandemic, according to the Environmental and Science reporter Terry Hansen. The precise impact of the resurgence of H1N1 infection is impossible to predict, but a plausible scenario is that it could produce infection in 30 to 50% of the U.S. population this fall and winter. The report said that certain populations, including Native American groups, are considered at high risk of H1N1 influenza and have elevated risks of experiencing severe outcomes. Others at high risk include pregnant women and individuals with certain pre-existing conditions. It is unlikely that the H1N1 pandemic will reach the same deadly proportions as happened in the 1918-1920 Spanish flu, also an H1N1 swine flu, but the report predicted that the outbreak of 2009 will be more dangerous than the 1976 swine flu outbreak. For the full story, you can go to IndianCountryNews.com. In collaboration with the David Lynch Foundation, the Ho-Chunk Elders Council of the Winnebago Reservation in Nebraska will host an international sustainable living conference called Building a Healthy, Sustainable American Indian Community. The conference will be held at the Meshari University Management in Fairfield, Iowa on September 25th through the 27th. Featured guest speakers will include Joe Garcia, President of the National Congress of American Indians, Robert Cook, President of the National Education Association, Lucille Echohawk, Strategic Advisor with the Casey Family Programs, and Kevin Skenendor, Acting Director of the Bureau of Indian Education. For more information on the conference, you can go to AmericanIndianSustainableConference.org. The 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld federal protection of the air quality on the Forest County Potawatomi Community Reservation September 9th by dismissing a lawsuit by the state of Michigan. We are thankful that the federal court has confirmed our rights under the Clean Air Act to protect the health of our air and our water, said Potawatomi Chairman Philip Chopadak. This is a great victory. Pure air and pure water are essential to our culture and our beliefs, he said. We must protect our homes for future generations. The chairman added that all of northern Wisconsin will benefit from the court decision. The Federal Court of Appeals decision upheld the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's April 2008 designation of the Potawatomi Reservation in Forest County with Class 1 air status. As sovereign entities, Indian tribes as well as states have the right under the Federal Clean Air Act to request a Class 1 air designation from EPA for their lands, which provides the highest level of protection against pollution. Only 4 other tribes have been granted Class 1 air status. The 2008 designation of the Potawatomi was the first by EPA since 1992. Certain national parks and federal forest lands were designated as Class 1 areas by the Class Air Act as well. The designation does not affect emissions from existing facilities that continue with their current operations. Today, the Confederated Salish and Kootenai tribes of western Montana launched an aggressive marketing effort to put to rest misnomers about American Indians, and they're doing it with a very 21st century way. Called The Res We Live On, the campaign weaves together a cutting-edge viewing experience with multimedia tools, video, and animation, which is marketed with coffee jackets and billboards. According to CSKT Communications Director Robert McDonald, the goal is to reach everyone, especially the media-savvy younger generation. Young people and new residents in the area may be more open to the tribe's message, but the fact is that lifelong residents of the reservation may not have heard a lot of the information either, he said. To check out the information, you can go to their website at thereswelivon.com. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. But before we go, my co-host Paul Demain would like to share some following Facebook Indian style. So I'll hand the reins over to him, and I'd like to wish everyone out there a safe and joyous weekend. Thank you, and have a grand day.
And I'm cheeked and ready to go here on following Facebook Res Style. a little bit of a review of the social networks, and this is what we're going to leave with you until next week. Jenny Brazil says, thanks all of our military, firefighters, police officers, and emergency responders for all they do for our country. Today is a day to remember the loved ones, friends, colleagues that were lost on 9/11. Stop and say a prayer and remember. And Brenda John says, today we remember the victims and families of 9/11. Please keep them in your thoughts and prayers. According to Philippi Rose, so in remembrance of 9/11 and my father's native people, whose land was taken away, I say rise, rise up. To the naysayers and tea parties that want their country back, it wasn't theirs to begin with. And also from Robin Casasinnamon, view the National Museum of American History's collection of 9/11 objects and listen to the audio stories. Use the pound number Remembering 9/11 when you go to that website. You'll find that. Mark Trahant notes in his Facebook account that on 9/11/2001, Nora and I were in Johannesburg, south of Africa. We had just come back from a game reserve near Botswana. It was afternoon when the TV report started and we watched the horror unfold through the night. No flights back to the States. In the hotel, people would come up to us and tell us, today we are Americans. And Mark Aquash adds, Hoa, 9/11. I know exactly where I was at this time in 2001. Couldn't believe what I was looking at. But then he doesn't say anything about where he was. And it reminded me that I was in the Le Coudray Health Center clinic watching that TV set when the second plane flew into the second tower. I thought somehow it was an instant replay, not realizing it was the second tower getting ready to go down. And in other Facebook posts today, Stacy Thunder says, I just saw the second season premiere of Crash on Stars on Demand. My scene was short, but worth the experience. Feeling good right now. And it ends with one of those little smiley things. Someone told me that that doesn't really come out for a couple more weeks, but she might have a sneak preview to some of her own programs, you think. Here is Louis Gray in Facebook. This just in, I'm taking a power nap to prepare myself for additional surfing. Someone contact news on 6. Okay, we went and did that right away, and they said they were going to get on it, but I haven't seen the results of that program yet. Louis Gray also writes today, Congressman Joe Wilson was probably the first idiot to yell, someone get a rope and burn her. Of course, we all know that Wilson was the congressman who had to apologize for shouting out liar when President Obama was delivering his speech on health care reform the other night. And in I Am Lightfoot, it says, thank you everyone for all the birthday wishes today. I can honestly say that I've made my years on this earth count so far. Feel blessed. Wilson Pipestem writes, Truman and Parrish are proudly wearing their NB3, that's the Nota Begay 3 hats in this photo. Handing a club of any kind to either one of them, however, is a very dangerous proposition. And finally, one of the better ones for the day that I like from Elizabeth Brothers writes in Facebook, grant me the senility to forget the people I never liked anyway, good fortune to run into the ones I do, and the eyesight to tell the difference. And that is Following Facebook Res Style today, and we want to thank our underwriters for helping us with this broadcast, and we all hope you have an enjoyable weekend.